6 years later, Telltale gets ready to close out its epic saga, and their also rather original and very poignant take on the Walking Dead universe. All kicking off in 2012 when a man named Lee had to take care of a young girl named Clementine, and we were all just drowning ourselves in tears and Kleenex with that season 1 finale. Since then, we've had 2 other seasons that would either switch between you controlling Clementine and you controlling another character with Clementine involved. And now, to close everything out, the common denominator of all those seasons, Clementine takes center stage once more in the final season of Telltale's The Walking Dead. And lo and behold, it was about to sneak by me because I had to refresh my memory like, when does this come out again? Oh yeah, August 14th. Holy shit, I was so caught up in trying to plan out a vacation for me and my girlfriend to celebrate my birthday and our anniversary that at the last second I was like, oh my god, The Walking Dead comes out this Tuesday. Pre-order the entire season pass, played episode 1, and now here I am to review episode 1 entitled Done Running, which is kind of like the theme of both Clementine and now her new partner, AJ, who was kind of in the past couple of seasons as a baby, but now he's a little bit much more grown. And this is kind of an interesting thing to close out the Walking Dead saga with this final season, is having Clementine fill in the shoes that she was looking up to in the form of Lee, and now she's like Lee at this point. In fact, Telltale went as far as to release some artwork that resembled that season 1 artwork with Lee with the axe trying to protect Clementine. We got a similar thing going on right here with Clementine trying to protect AJ, also with an axe, and also in front of a sunset that's very reminiscent of that season 1 art. And I think that message hits really close here when the episode first starts off. You trying to protect AJ, provide for AJ, gathering food, and just trying to survive. So that's a theme that is very... It could kind of get redundant at times with The Walking Dead, whether it be with Telltale's version or even the goddamn TV show or even the comics nowadays. However, there's something about the way that Telltale was able to orchestrate it from season 1 even down to 2 and 3, which I understand a lot of people have varied opinions on. So far, episode 1 is able to continue that trend of trying to survive and trying to make ends meet in this harsh reality, but at the same time, it's the original take on these characters, most notably Clementine, and seeing her progression from season 1 down to the new character she is now. That's like, wow, I'm definitely starting to feel the weight. Granted, I think I could have done with the little opening montage that's kind of like a previously on The Walking Dead type thing from the very beginning of season 1, only because I already have it in my mind of how my playthrough plays out. In fact, this game takes your import from the past seasons, especially if you played them all on PS4 or if you manage to play them on the same account, they'll be able to carry over your saves. Granted, sometimes the game kind of helps you out by letting you choose some last minute choices that you might have forgotten how it went down, so you get to get a little recap / refresher here at the beginning. It's just that the way it's kind of montaged together, it did something that reminded me one of the biggest issues with The Walking Dead. Again, the TV show and the comic books are probably the biggest culprits of this, and that is that in The Walking Dead, you do come across some redundant themes. Most notably, the whole, hey, we found a group, oh, the group betrayed us, or we got into some trouble with the group, now we're kind of shunned, or we run into some trouble, we have to kill some people to survive, and now we're on the road being by ourselves, and so we run into the next group, rinse and repeat. And that opening montage kind of gave me that feeling where I'm like, you guys kind of created an illusion here that I was getting into a really original take on the universe from Telltale, and yet it's reminding me that it's kind of similar to the TV show and the comics. So, that was a little iffy. And if that wasn't unsettling enough, the entire story of episode 1, which I'm not going to go into full detail in case you have not played it, is also kind of borrowing from that, where you do run into a brand new settlement filled with different diverse characters, and it's you as Clementine along with AJ trying to fit in with this brand new set of characters. And again, not only was it kind of rinse and repeat, I feel like I've been here before, but I don't know how I feel about these characters. At least at the beginning I didn't, because these characters are lifted from a Peter Pan story where they got that Lost Boys type of mentality. You even got the central leader of this entire group with a very Rufio looking haircut. He's got like a mullet, and I love it that they at least had a character calling him out on his haircut. That was terrible. However, these characters, they were just so different and within their element that I just did not know 100% how to accept them, because the beginning reminded me of the shit that I went through as Clementine in the past seasons, where it was very dark, it was very dire, characters were losing their shit. We had themes dealing with cannibalism and killing children, possibly even. And so it got dark at times, numerous times. So then to see these characters have like these slang with each other, and you got characters each with their own specific quirk that kind of set them apart from the others, is like, yeah, it was a little jarring at first. It was a little jarring to accept these characters at the very beginning. Most notably, a character, I think his name was Lewis, who's got like the dreadlocks, and he loves to play music, and he's got a swagger to him that, yeah, he was likable. I just don't know how he fits into this universe. That, again, it was a little unsettling at first. For a moment, it was a little weird to accept these characters, but thankfully, due to the likability of these characters, the way that the writing plays out with the choices that you make and the dialogue choices that you make, I learned to accept them and actually enjoyed going along some of the things that they do to trying to survive, that I was like, you know what, I dig these characters. After a while, I understood that maybe it was slowing down a little to where nothing was going on. In fact, this episode went on longer than I was expecting it to be. And for good reason. And that's because literally just today, as of the recording of this video, they announced the full schedule for The Walking Dead final season. A final season that's only going to comprise of 4 episodes as opposed to the usual 5. So having an episode shorter of the usual means that these episodes are going to be a little longer. And I do believe that this episode clocked at a good 2.5, almost 2 hours and 45 minutes, longer than the average episode from Telltale, whether it be with The Walking Dead or even Game of Thrones, Guardians of the Galaxy, etc. So going on a little longer, I was like, okay, that kind of makes up for that episode that it's not including in the season. But at the same time, it did drag on a little bit in the pacing, where some of the characters just kind of kept on talking. And I understood that I liked them. I understood the troubles and the past issues that they've had surviving in this world. But again, going through that rinse and repeat motion, they were starting to say certain things that I'm like, why do I feel like I've come across this character before? Whether it be in the TV show, in the comics, or even within the Telltale universe. The only character I do feel I've never come across before, whether it be in a movie or a game that deals with the zombie apocalypse, is this damn kid, AJ. Holy shit, man. I am digging this kid. Let me put some context on that before I get, called out here and, hashtagged. Okay, here's the thing. This is a kid very much reminiscent of Ellie from The Last of Us and several other different characters from post-apocalyptic games, even Atreus from a non-apocalyptic game like God of War, where you expect this kid to be annoying, but right from the get-go, he knows his shit. He knows how to handle a weapon, he knows the principles of living in this world, and he knows when to call some bullshit on some people, even Clementine herself. So I enjoyed the chemistry between Clementine and this kid. I liked guiding him in the direction that I wanted him to without expecting him to, kind of rebel against Clementine's guidance. And yeah, he was a very likable dude. Granted, he has this moments where he acts out a little bit, but it felt natural. It didn't feel like a thing where I'm like, wow, this kid just acted out of nowhere. He had his reasons, and he had a reasoning for why he's kind of programmable, and that's because he's a kid. Kids are very easily influenced, so it was viable. It was viable for him to do the things that he did, but at the same time, I liked that he was very much an unconventional kid that you don't want to see die because he's either idiotic or annoying or doing some shit to just piss you off. And so his inclusion not only within the story kept the episode from dragging a little too far than what I was already feeling, but also it's his involvement in the story that brings forward a very 180 ending to this episode that was very much different from those moments that were dragging on where I was thinking, okay, I might have seen this before, or this feels a little bit too familiar. The end actually had me a little riveted, where it wasn't the most most original thing, but at least it got the pacing going to where I'm like, all right, now we're getting cooking. Of course, right when this starts to happen, that's when subconsciously that little formula kicks in for Telltale episode where you're like, oh, things are heating up to a boil. We're about to get into a very climactic event that's very much life and death, where some characters you were not expecting to go do in fact go, or characters that were looking just a little too cheery, you know that the shit's just about to go down because nobody can have a very good time in the Walking Dead universe. And that's when Telltale decides to roll those credits and give you the stats for what you decided to go with in the game in terms of choices and player actions. And yeah, this is an ending that is going to make the month and 10-day wait until the next episode at the end of September a little anxious. Not too bad, but enough for me to go, okay, how are you going to start off that second episode? And again, it's Age's involvement and the likability of Clementine and some of these other characters that I grew to like that made me kind of move past the little gripes I've had with the story's familiarity. Now, if it was a TV show or the comics, I would often just end it right there, but it is a video game. It involves graphic fidelity and also your involvement playing the damn game. So in terms of graphics, I was actually rather impressed with how much they managed to polish up this game. Now, this is not necessarily a brand new engine. It's still using the same old Telltale engine. I can't remember what it's called, but they made it clear that this is actually going to be the last game they produce with this old engine. Which is funny because, thank the Lord, no crashes whatsoever. Because I remember one of my biggest complaints with The Walking Dead: A New Frontier, and then another Telltale game I played in between them, which I think was the Batman game. They crashed, or they would have visual hiccups where you have like floating T's and I's, and Batman's cape would just be flickering all over the place. Nothing like that happened here. It was actually rather polished. There were no crashes, and I was actually very much taken with the artwork of this game, where it doesn't look as 3D-ish as New Frontier looked like. In fact, this kind of looks a little bit more cel-shaded. The character designs are still, in cohesiveness with the past couple of seasons, where they have that comic book look, but they're colored in, so they're not black and white like the comics. But also the backgrounds, they look a little less 3D-ish, and they do something very clever with the shadows where it looks rather beautiful. It looks like a legitimate page that I'm walking across whenever I'm interacting with the environment or the people within it. And the actual design of the characters is also rather neat. Again, nothing that really blew me away, but at least they were able to keep in consistency with that artwork style, while at the same time taking advantage of some of these shadows that I just had to stop at a couple moments and kind of gaze at a sky that looked like it was painted with watercolor paint, or the forest that was playing with shadows that felt rather haunting. And I was like, okay, cool. I actually enjoy the atmosphere that I'm in. And also the gameplay does feel a little bit pulled back. It doesn't feel as point and click adventure-y as the past couple of ones did. In fact, this one plays out more, and I hate to use this because I think it's a little cliche for gamers and game reviewers to kind of mention this. People just pick up the pitchforks and torches and start going to town when people mention this in the reviews. But it does feel a little Last of Us-y, where the camera's kind of positioned more over the shoulder of Clementine, and it kind of navigates the way that a third-person game does, as opposed to the past couple of seasons where you just have like a backdrop and you either control Lee or Clementine and move them across the open landscape and interact with things. And I enjoyed, for the most part, the third-person approach to this playstyle. I just didn't like how funneled in my actual interactions with the environment really were. Because in past games, whenever you would move the reticle over an object, you would either get the option to just look at the object or interact with the object, or even the people. You can look at the people, kind of have Clementine or Lee or Javi have like some kind of insight about them, and then just move forward, or actually talk to them. Here, everything is just narrowed down to one action whenever you hover over them. And only by pressing just one button, you either go through the notions of talking to them, or looking at them, or interacting with some kind of object. And there's no exact puzzles to be found here, except for a couple where you have to move one object to get to another, but it's very simple, nothing to really rack your brain with. And it's very simplistic. In fact, it's probably a much more simplistic game than the past couple of seasons of The Walking Dead were, to where it's a little hard to argue people saying that this is much more of an interactive movie rather than a game. This time, I can see a little bit of credence in that. It's also a little hard to tell at the moment whether or not my choices had as big of an impact on the story as they've had in the past couple, where you don't know if you made the right call. Here, it's almost a little bit more binary, but at least they did something at the end where they show you the stats, and not only do they show you, which choice you went with and the percentage of how many people agreed with you all over the internet, but also it gives you the impressions you left on people that you've interacted with at the school and outside of the school. And it's cool to see that, okay, you're leaving me with this, and I feel like I can kind of think about this up until season 2, where I'm like, okay, I was left in good standing with this person, I should probably try to side with them, or this other person doesn't feel so hot about me, I should at least try to appeal to their better nature. So that's actually got me thinking, and I remember that being included in the past game, so it's a welcome addition here. Overall, this is a very decent start to the final season of The Walking Dead. I can definitely see so many seeds planted for a humongous and very satisfying payoff to Clementine's story and to close out this entire saga that Telltale started back in 2012, especially with their award-winning first season of The Walking Dead. And I feel like there's still potential for them to kind of hit those type of accolades with the remaining 3 episodes. However, again, it's a little tough they're kind of running into the same issues that the show definitely did, and from what I've heard, the comics have also done with their latest issues, where they've hit certain stories where it's like you almost can't really do anything else with The Walking Dead because you've already done it. You can do cannibalism, but you've already done it before. You can do, a group of survivors that live by a certain code. It feels like we've already seen that. So you can kind of see a little bit of, that they had to kind of push through with that here in the first episode, because they have to establish the setting and establish the group of characters that have a certain system in play. But at least now with Clementine and AJ being thrust into there because of the way their chemistry works and how likable they are, they're able to kind of put their own spin. And I think that now that we've gotten past that, episode 2 has the potential to really go into a different direction that we haven't seen before, as long as they don't screw it up and they keep in mind the choices that are made, especially with the impressions that are left on people, as well as really improve on the graphics. They're really great. Don't screw it up. No more crashes, because you did an excellent job with this first episode not having any of those issues. So for now, I'm going to be done running the first episode of Telltale's final season of The Walking Dead a very solid 8 out of 10. Here's to hoping that this season is going to leave us in those crocodile tears that season 1 did, because as morbid as that sounds, that's exactly what these games were meant to do. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of episode 1 of the final season of The Walking Dead. If you have played it, if you have not, will you be playing it? Please make sure to like and share this video to support it. Of course, subscribe for more reviews, as well as the reviews for episodes 2 through 4 whenever they get released for the remainder of the year. Keep in mind that there's a very strong possibility that when I go over to those reviews, I will then finally break down certain specific plot points. So spoilers will probably follow in those episode reviews, because there's no real way to kind of go forward without talking about what happened in the past episode and then what's kind of transgress to an extent in that current episode. So you've been warned here. Until next time, guys, see you later. I don't know if at this point they managed to incorporate mocap, but the way they run, or the way it's like they didn't get the proper people to interpret some of these folks. There's a couple scenes where Peter has to run and he just has like the most wimpiest run, and it just did not translate very well.
Parker! That's the 3rd call I got about giant lizards running amok in Gramercy Park. Giant lizards! Pronto!